Okay. Hey guys, welcome to the Corporate Rebel. I am your host, Miss Nina Monique, and I am so excited for this podcast because I'm going to be talking about everything related to corporate America. I know a lot of us are entrepreneurs and we're creative by heart, and it's hard for us to sit at a desk sometime and just deal with a whole bunch of BS, whether it's discrimination in corporate America, whether it's, crazy coworkers at times or difficult managers to deal with, and you just want to do something with your life that has more meaning and it's just something that you want to do and your heart is calling out for it. So today I have Miss Shronda Armstrong, aka Geaux Queen. She is the host of the Q Chat podcast, and make sure you follow her. She is a very inspirational woman. I met her on Instagram when I was unemployed and I started my blog, A Sassy, Classy, Sophisticated Woman. And I interviewed her and I loved her vibe, everything. And I reached out to her when I wanted to start a podcast because she is a straight hustler. She do everything. So if you want to start your own podcast, you need t-shirt services, anything, reach out to her. She'll help you out. So welcome to the Corporate Rebel podcast, Shronda. How are you?
Thank you, Nina. I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Yeah, today is one of those days. I'm excited because of the podcast, but at the same time, I'm daydreaming about being in Cali, which I'm going to be doing soon. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. So you and I, we talked a few times over, text messages, and we had a chat over Zoom, and you and I have so much in common, especially when it comes to corporate America.
Yes, we have a ton in common.
Yes. One of the things I wanted to talk about was you and your experience with corporate America. If you don't mind sharing, what was the final push for you when you said, I have to leave this, I have to start my own business, and I have to be my own?
Well, it was kind of like a combination of two pushes because I was with one
Mm-hmm.
particular company for like almost 5 years. And I have been going through a lot with, so many different situations. Racism, number
Mm-hmm.
one, was the main thing. And I kept tolerating it for quite some time. And when I finally got to a department, which I ended up at that department because the previous manager I had was trying to fire me,
Mm-hmm.
but he had this thing out for Black women, actually. It's like and there's barely any Black people there, FYI, for people so you can get a full picture of it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just ironic every time he did get a Black woman, because my company never hired Black men, actually. Whenever there was a Black woman working for him, he always had some type of problem with them, and how he would deal with them is to like either try to get rid of them, and if he couldn't get rid of them, they would end up mysteriously off to another department. So
Mm-hmm.
that initially happened to me, and he was terrible to work with. And then the department I went to, I had to start from the bottom and like work my way up, because mind you, he'd already put this stain on me when I went there.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up excelling like really well, like, to the
Yeah.
point it was like I was one of the most tenured, experienced people there. Um, but it was still a lot of racism going on. Another Black person I work with, she had gone through a lot of stuff and she finally left. And the
Mm-hmm.
final straw was a promotion that should have naturally been mine. Instead of them giving it to me, everyone was like, why is she naturally being put in that position, as was done for everyone else? They didn't have to go through fiery hoops.
Mm-hmm.
They just went through a succession over to that position. But when it came up, when it was my thing, oh, well, the manager decided to open it to everyone, have everyone, apply. And it was like a shit show. And if he still couldn't win that way, they just
Mm-hmm.
eliminated the whole position. So I was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And the funny thing is, the Black person who had left, we were still in communication, and she was
Mm-hmm.
like, they're not going to give it to you, right? Like, we were having a one-on-one conversation. They're not going to do it. And I told her, I said, you know what? I know they aren't, but I still need to go through the process to see how dirty they're going to do me.
Right.
you know?
Right.
And after that, I left, like, I resigned. And after that, I left, like I resigned. And at the time, another company with the same field was
Mm-hmm.
already recruiting me. So I was like, I'm just going to go for it. So I quit that job and ended up going to another company. And it was like the racism and just the whole let's give people a bunch of perks to make them think they're at the best place, to devote their whole lives to on steroids.
Yeah.
It was like the same old stuff. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm just not meant to do this, period. I'm like, I'm not receiving any joy out of this.
Yeah.
I'm like, the money I am getting is coming at too much of a price for me, and too much of my life is being asked to give to a career that's not mine.
Right.
And both of those companies was like the same setup, the rich CEO, white male, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't do this modern day slavery anymore. So I was like, I'm out, and it was one of the biggest decisions I've made, but I would never look back on it. If I had to do everything over again, the only thing I would have done is left earlier than
Yeah.
I left. Actually, I would have never put up with that stuff I put up with for the amount of time I did.
I understand, because that was something, as I mentioned to you, that I experienced as well. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, uh, I'm in investment banking. I'm not afraid to put it out there anymore, because I think that is the most challenging yet interesting field you could go into.
Yeah.
I enjoyed learning things, but when it came to trying to get ahead and trying to interact with, people in corporate America, I just felt like I didn't fit in. And
Right.
even though I was putting in the time to get ahead, the opportunities that came to me were never presented to me. And I would, ask about them, and, oh no, you don't have the experience. And I'm like, but yes, I do. Like, I
Yeah.
helped you out with certain things, and it was just to the point where I said, okay, you know what? The hell with this. I need to move on with my life, because I'm not being rewarded or compensated for it in any way. And I'm not begging for it or kissing ass for it either.
Mm.
So I had to move on. And you experience the racism, you experience, feeling like you're not worthy of or worthy of or capable of moving ahead. And I was tired of feeling like that about myself, because I know that I could do the job. So I was like, you know what? It's time for me to focus and put my energy and time into something that makes me happy, which was broadcasting, which was starting my own clothing line, which was starting my own blog. And I love those things, being creative. And I get to meet people like you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So my next question to you is, how hard was it for you to actually, get yourself going as an entrepreneur?
Um, I don't want to label it as hard. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship, and it's been exactly 2 years for me now, because I had started the inkling of the business actually right before I left that industry. So I had
Mm-hmm.
literally just
Okay.
started that business. I had left that industry completely in July of 2019. So when I was leaving the first company to transition to the other one, I had literally just started that business like maybe a week or two after I had left the first company, when I was in like the time period between, oh, I just resigned and I had my start date for the other company, so I still had some time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it had already developed, but it wasn't anything where in my mind I'm like, okay, this is going to be, my full-time self-made career. I wasn't at that
Mm-hmm.
stage yet. When I did leave the job completely, the whole industry, I mean, yeah, I was like, and it was abrupt, because I was like, I cannot take anymore. Just like you mentioned, when you're dealing with the same stuff over and over, it's like it's mental abuse. It's a different form of
Yes.
mental abuse. So like
Yes.
I was like, I'm just done. Like, I had quit abruptly. Like, I'm like, I cannot take any more of this. Like, this is too much on me mentally. So, that's the only drawback, which is another thing that they do to us, which is wrong. But I didn't have that time to really say, oh, well, let me map out this plan, and, I'm going to
Right.
leave in 6 months. It wasn't that situation, because I was like, I'm not going to do this, because I'm like, I may not
Right.
be here in another 6 months if I give them any more of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was abrupt, but it was the knee jerk reaction I needed to really sit down and be like, okay, how am I going to really take this business and mold it?
Mm-hmm.
So it just was meant to be, though. Now, as far as like, I don't want to necessarily use the term hard, but because in any, like I said, being an entrepreneur, it's a daily thing for me, even with 2 years trying to be innovative. Any business, I feel like you can't just have one stream of anything. Like, I
Right.
just feel like you have, especially what we're trying to do, broadcasting and,
Yeah.
and clothing is a little different. It's different if I was selling like a product, it'd be slightly different, but we're doing something that's based strictly on a unique talent. So
Right.
in that case, it's always a daily thing trying to think how to be fresh, how to think of ways
Mm-hmm.
to monetize, so it's an ongoing thing. That's why I feel like you got to have that hustler spirit, which is why I also feel like when you think that way, it is really hard to be in a typical 9 to 5 corporate stuffy
Right.
situation.
Yes.
And it's like a blessing and a curse because you have the tools. That's why I wanted to catch one thing you said. You are worthy. When we're in those positions, we were worthy of those,
Right.
promotions. We knew it. It's just that they weren't going to allow it. But that's the
Right.
thing. It's like when you know you're worthy of something and it's going to be some BS to get it, it's just like, okay, this is
Right.
not. Some people
Right.
can tolerate that stuff. I
Right.
just was
Yep.
never that kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
So, having a business like, what we're trying to do, broadcasting, things like that, it just forces you to really take those talents and run with it. I don't feel like everyone could do what we're doing, and
Right.
that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a daily thing. So I can't necessarily say it's hard, but it's not like it's an easy process, but it takes a person to have that heart and love for what they're doing.
Yeah.
I have the heart and love for what I'm doing, so like I'm going to stick with it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not
Yep.
going to be a situation like when I was in that
Yep.
industry and I was like I'm out. Like I'm not just going to be like one day like, well, you know what? I'm not going to do the key chat and stuff. I'm done. Like if anything, I'm going to mold it into something different. But that just goes back to just sum up my answer. When you really have a heart for something,
Yeah.
it's just totally different. And that was one of the things that bothered me when I worked in
Mm-hmm.
the industry. I was like, I'm building something for somebody else. Like the
Right.
person that
Right.
owned the company,
Right.
he lived in a big home and was able to do all this stuff. I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm slaving for him to live
Yep.
great. Like it literally is when you're working in an unhappy career, it really is modern day slavery. I know a lot of
Yes, it
people
is.
don't understand that analogy, but if you have to ask a grown person, when can I even
There
take
you
a
go.
break? When can I be sick? When can I go on vacation? When can I even
Mm-hmm.
go home? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. They're
Exactly.
giving you little benefits to be a part of their big dream. So
Mm-hmm.
it's what's the difference in being in the field when the master's living in his big house? There's literally no difference to me.
I agree.
So I was
I
like, I'd
agree.
rather build my own. And the role models in my mind have unconventional dreams and they made it happen. So I
Mm-hmm.
felt like, and then I felt like the compliments I was getting at that job. Oh, your energy is so great. You're so good at talking to people. You're so this, you're so that. And I was like, yeah, but I'm stuck in this box. And
Right.
those things that
Exactly.
you're complimenting me on are just enough for you to pay me crumbs to keep you happy. But you're not
Right.
really even paying me what I'm worth for these talents. And
Right.
they knew it. So I was like, I just can't do this anymore. It was just
Right.
entirely too much.
Right. That's the thing that bothers me, going on these interviews and when they look at my resume and they say, wow, you have a lot of experience. And I'm like, well, thank you very much. Trying to be polite and everything. And then when they hit me with, well, we have this job and it's paying this amount. And it's like, excuse me, you see, I have like 20 plus years on my resume of doing this. And that's all you're going to give me. And when
Mhm.
I express to them what I know, like in my relationship with the managers at times and just being able to speak about what I do fluently and be comfortable with my answers and knowing that I know this job. and you want to offer me, like you said, crumbs, is disrespectful to me. And it's disrespectful to me.
Yeah.
And for me, also, that's what pushed me into, just doing my own thing, because I'm like, if I could do all of this for you, be annoyed, be pissed off, and struggling to get by, I'd rather put that energy into what I enjoy. I deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was killing me. And another thing you mentioned when you were speaking was mental health. I'm very, very big on mental health, because for me, I went through a lot, where I started questioning myself, and I started to just withdraw from people, withdraw from life. I had to see a therapist. I was put on Lexapro, and I was just miserable. And I hate to see people go through that.
Mm-hmm.
What would you mentioned also, how you said enough is enough. Like, I can't do this anymore. Some people will be scared to do that, and I understand. What advice would you be able to give, or would you want to give to someone who is like just sitting there struggling, trying to get through their days at corporate America? Because it is a mental thing. What advice could you possibly offer someone going through that?
I mean, the first thing I would say is no job is worth your health. I mean, not at all. That meme that they say about, well, if you die, they're just gonna post your position up like the next day or so. That's a fact. Like, seriously,
Yeah,
like, as much as you think those people need you, they don't. They only say that to have their labor, but they don't need you. They'll
right.
replace you in a heartbeat. So that's
Mhm.
the first thing I would throw out there. That number one, no job is worth your health. And secondly, if you're that stressed out about a job or you're physically and mentally drained,
Mhm.
and I'm not even telling everyone, hey, you have to be an entrepreneur. I'm not even
Right.
saying that, but at least go get
Right.
another job,
Right.
see what happens. Like, I left that particular company that I hated. I got another one, didn't care for that one either. But for me, like I said, in my industry was payroll, which is similar to banking. I
Mhm.
was like, I don't want to deal with payroll anymore. I don't want to be in an industry anymore where you only get like maybe 3 days, I believe, out the whole year off. I was like, I cannot mentally deal with this anymore. Um, but I would just tell a person, just no job is worth being unhappy.
Mhm.
I'm not saying you, like I said, you don't have to necessarily leave and be an entrepreneur, but you owe it to yourself to find another situation that's healthy. I mean, not all companies are terrible. At least I
Right.
would hope they're
Right.
not, but
Right.
I would at least try and find out. Here's the thing, you have the skills to go get another job.
Right.
Find another one. Like I said, if that's an industry that you actually do like, but you may not just care for that company, go find another company, you know,
Yep.
and go there, but don't feel like you have to stay in a bad situation. It's the same as being in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Like, why put up with toxicity? People are having heart attacks every day for that job, and the
Yeah.
stress that's involved in that job. And I just feel like it's not worth it at all. So that is the first thing I would just say, is to just,
Right.
why stay? Like, why? Like, what's the end goal in staying? Because I was in those situations where I hated clocking in. Okay, like I
Mhm.
couldn't stand it. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I
Yep.
would have moments where I felt like I was stuck. But when I
Mhm.
left those situations, I'm still here. I'm still eating. It's like,
Yep.
still got the lights on. It's like, there's no reason to ever stay at a situation where you're unhappy, is my thing. You don't have to, it doesn't necessarily have to be drastic. You don't have to quit abruptly, even though jobs
Right.
will fire you abruptly. They don't give you
Exactly.
2 weeks when they ask you to leave. They tell you, oh,
Mhm.
you can go home. But we just wanna we just gotta do everything nice, for the people over us. Why? Like, they
Mhm.
don't think about that when they write you up, or when they don't care that you're not
Exactly.
feeling well. You know, when they deny your vacation. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I just don't
You
think
are
it's
absolutely
necessary.
right. You are
I just don't
absolutely
think it's
right.
necessary. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
no reason to make yourself unhappy for anything. It's like, your value should be more than that paycheck.
I agree. Last night, was it last night? No, it was Thursday night. I was looking at an old episode of Girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my show. I love William.
Yes, me too.
And Joan was going, it was the episode where Joan was going through her phase of being an attorney, where she really didn't want to be an attorney anymore. And, she was trying to find her way um, outside of law. And I was able to relate to it so much. And when it aired years ago, when I was young, I didn't get it. But when I looked at it Thursday, I was like, oh my God, like that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that, I'm mad at myself for not, exploring other things before I stepped into investment banking, because now at this point in my life, I'm like, okay, well, I know how to do other things, but I've been in this one spot for almost 20 years. Like, what else can I do? I try to like go into different fields, and they're like, well, we won't pay you as much, and we just feel like you won't stay long. And I'm like, but this is something that I want to do. But it's hard, stepping out of that area when you've been in it for so long.
Right.
And with being in payroll and you starting your own business, I remember when we was speaking, you said you had other talents, like you draw and everything. Do
Mm-hmm.
you see like all of your talents coming together now that you're doing just what you want to do now? Or how?
Well, definitely with what I'm doing, I'm utilizing all my skills. I majored in English actually, so I'm writing a blog. I exercise my writing with that.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting my podcast together takes creativity, just the editing. You know, it's not physically drawing like I can do, but it's still the
Mm-hmm.
same element of using design
Right.
concepts. So I get to do that. Talking to people and booking people, because I do things professionally. I'm utilizing even some of the business skills that
Right.
I picked up, just fashioning my business in a professional manner. I get to use every single skill I feel that I have, just minor things like the look I'll have before I record an
Mm-hmm.
episode. It's all strategic, the marketing skills that I use. So I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, not everyone is blessed with a bunch of different talents. So I do get that. So it's not the same for everyone picking a field, but for me, like I got to use everything. So that's one thing that made me happier in general. And no, the
Yeah.
money definitely does not start pouring in instantly,
Right.
but that's all part of the thing. I feel like when you leave that stability though, and it is stability though,
Mm-hmm.
technically, because like I said, you work for a company, that company can end tomorrow, you lay it off.
Exactly.
You can get fired, you lay it off. There could be a shortage in staff. There's so many, so that's the only thing that we kind of talk ourselves into, thinking that
Mm-hmm.
the company that we have is technically stability, but it's really technically not. How many people are
Right.
unemployed now because COVID happened
Exactly.
and it
Exactly.
stopped their job? So
Mm-hmm.
technically, your job is never technically stable, but like we think. But honestly, there's stability in controlling what you do, though, in a sense, though.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many different options with my business. I sell apparel. I run ads, with my broadcasting. People paying me to do that. So there's still other levels involved. I have clients, I'm speaking to one. So it's like, that's a thing too. I took that innovative spirit, when I started podcasting. I'm like, okay, how can I turn that into a way where I'm earning money off that? Okay, I will help other people with their podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I like to design things. How can I help other people? Okay, I'll create websites, things like that.
Right.
So there's so many different things. Sometimes I think a lot of times we're sitting on talents, though. We don't
Mm-hmm.
realize that we have talents that could essentially make us more than what
Right.
we made with our employer.
Right.
Now, at this moment, me personally, I'm still in a growing stage. I have high months and low months, but like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't change it at all because I needed that peace. I just could not be physically stressed out anymore. I couldn't
Yeah.
take speaking to clients who weren't necessarily respectful, you know. And I just, like I said, everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone's level of tough skin is different.
Mm-hmm.
Me, skin is different.
Mm-hmm.
Me, you know, I had emotional fragility where it's like I really can't have other things on my plate that's going to make my anxiety worse than what it already is. You
Right.
know, so
I agree.
I personally, I just couldn't do it. You know, like I said, I don't necessarily, and I try to be careful on my show too, not to make it seem like I'm telling people to go quit their job. I'm
Right.
not, but all I'm
Right.
saying is be happy, whatever it takes for
Right.
you to be happy. Yeah, you do have to take care of yourself. We're all adults. We have to put food on the table
Right.
and a roof over our head. And I have a family too, single parent. So it was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot for me doing that, you know. But on the flip side, I'm like, I want to show my children like you can literally do whatever it is you set your mind to.
Right. Right.
So for me, I just, you know, it wasn't for
Yeah.
me. Like I could say that over and over, but for me, it just wasn't the thing, you know. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you do have an idea, go for it. I've met people that I would have never met if I had stayed in that industry. You know,
Yes.
I've met actors, singers, public relations people, and I know I'm going to end up meeting more people, you know,
Right.
but that's something that makes me happy. You know, it may not mean
Exactly.
anything
Yes.
to the next person, but for me, it's an accomplishment with the media dreams that I have, you know, like my
Mm-hmm.
personal, you know, role models, career wise, entrepreneurship wise, are people like Oprah Winfrey and Issa Rae.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, that's what I aspire to be, you know, and I just, like I said, if a person needs to do it makes them happy. If they're really sick, like some people are physically ill because of their jobs, are mentally
Yes.
ill. Like you say, you have to, you know, try meds, you know,
Yep.
that's, I used to get anxiety sometimes when I would pull in a parking lot at
Mm-hmm.
my job. Like I couldn't breathe
Yes.
and stuff. That's
Yep.
not healthy. You know, like I was going to the doctor a lot before I left that job because I had like no energy to function. But I really was going through some type of depression. I didn't like being there. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
people need to
Yeah.
think about that because a lot of things are just not working mental health. You know, like if you find out someone's dating somebody that's terrible to them, what do we naturally say as human beings? Oh, you need to leave so and so. But
Right.
we never say that about the job though. Like when we know someone is like unhappy and they complaining all the time. Like I had a situation where a family member of mine was complaining about her job 24/7 to the point I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to hear it anymore because I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, if you're
You,
gonna complain every single day, like it's not your supervisor at this point or that coworker
yep.
you can't stand. It's you because you're choosing to be there. Is what I
Exactly.
looked at it. I'm like, damn, there's other jobs, you know, and especially when I talk to people that I mean, not no this that's not even making that much. You know you can leave. You know, it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're not making a crap ton
Yeah.
of money. So like you can leave. There's other places probably paying more than some people are tolerating. So
Yes.
just go. And here's the thing too, it's okay to take a pay cut. As far as some people who may
I
leave a
did.
job and they'll be like,
Yeah.
well, this job may not pay as much. But sometimes it's worth taking
Yeah.
a slight pay cut if you know you can accelerate or, you know,
Prime
that's why I
example.
always do encourage to don't let your one job be your only stream as well though.
Yeah.
Like even if you have a job where you do like the industry, just
Mm-hmm.
try to have other options too because anything could happen though. Those people could get rid of you tomorrow
I
and you
agree.
stuck. You
And
know,
I
like
would
I
see
said,
that all the time. I would see
right.
it
So
all the
have
time.
other options in general. Have other streams of income because it would be great if we all, as adults, were at the point where it's like, let's say something did happen to my job. Okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
I have this to fall back on. Or let's say something happens where I really can't do my business. Okay, I got this to fall back on. It's just, you know, there's a lot of levels to it, you know,
Yeah.
but I just feel like a
Yep.
person shouldn't depend on any one thing. Like even with my business, I don't do just one thing. You know, I do a
Yep.
bunch of different things. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a good. I have to stay afloat. You know, and then that's just
Mm-hmm.
also a part of having different layers to what I'm doing. You know, doing media like you and I are talking about in
Mm-hmm.
broadcasting. I feel like you can't just do one thing.
I
So,
agree.
you
I
know,
agree. And to play off of what you just said, about the multiple streams of income. With our conversations, we talked about how, society was brainwashed into thinking that a corporate job was just the only way to survive. And now everyone is like pushing into that entrepreneurship role. Um, how important do you think it is like to reprogram? I'm not even gonna say reprogram because I think, the generation after us, they're like, no, I'm not gonna be sitting in the office all day. If there's I'm starting my own business, they go to apps, they become Instagram influencers and stuff like that. How important do you think it is to teach kids about it? Like you said, it don't have to be entrepreneurship, but to have like that financial stability, and whether you do become an entrepreneur, or you in corporate America and you save enough money and it's like, okay, I want to move on and do something else, because there's, in my opinion, society is still trying to pass along that narrative that corporate America is the place to be. And they're like, no, it's not. How important do you think it is to like reprogram kids now into having them realize you need multiple streams of income and there's not just one way to make it?
Well, like I said, I'm a single parent, and two of my kids, one of my kids will be 20 years old in like 2-3 weeks. My middle child
Wow.
will be graduating high school. She's about to be a senior.
Wow.
So with my kids alone, like I wasn't raised in a situation where I was taught about having a 700 credit score, or hey, here's the things that you need to have a mortgage. Here's how you save. Here's how you invest.
Yeah.
I wasn't taught those things. So I just think in general, young people do need to have that fed into them, but they also need to see it by example. So, with children, you definitely need to tell those kids when they get to that age where they're like a sponge, teach them about finances, teach them how to save, teach them how to invest, teach them how to have good credit, teach them how to not be in debt. Because that's another way to have freedom, so that you are not tied into this job. So let's say, for example, you're at a job where you really are unhappy, but you've been taught financial wealth though. So if you've been taught financial wealth, you should have some other stream. Number one, you should have something put aside. Your credit's good. You got savings, everything, so that you really could transition out if you need to. It all falls in together, having that financial intelligence and that financial independence, but it's super important to tell young people that financial literacy part. But then on the second level, I do feel like people are conditioned to, okay, go to high school. Obviously, you graduate, but they're conditioned to, once you graduate high school, well, if you don't go to college, you're less of a person. You're not going to be successful. You're unable to have a career. Also, another part of entrepreneurship, a lot of entrepreneurs that are making a lot of money, killing it, are doing it from trades.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, because mind you, I'm older, I got some age on you, trades weren't necessarily looked down upon as much as they are, I feel like now, because we have this classism thing going, where it's like we kind of don't teach kids about trades as well. But I think we're using the wrong terms. A lot of trades actually are business, models. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of those trades are things that you can own a business in. Being a plumber, plumbers make a whole ton of money. Yep. You can own a business being a plumber. Electricians make a lot of money. Cosmetologists make a lot of money. And we can go on and on. A lot of those trades that people look down upon are actually independent careers, actually. So that's one way to look at it, and that's something that there's no shame in telling a young person, like, hey, it's totally okay if you want to take up a trade, because you can actually make more money than that next person who's at a job, who's capped at a salary. They're not going to be up for the promotion they deserve. They're unhappy. So, it's a matter of how you look at things. But I feel like young people should be taught all of those options instead of being told, okay, after high school, you go to 4-year college. And as we know, bachelors don't hold the same amount of weight as they did back in the day. They really
The
don't.
world is
So
changing. Yeah.
correct. So that's another thing. A lot of times it's like, if you're going to really get that bachelor's, you better go ahead and get the master's at this point. A lot of people have
Exactly.
to,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, you better go get the doctor. This is like, sometimes I feel like I know a lot of people who are career college students. It's like every
Yeah.
other year they get like a new degree, but it's like, I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
they do for a living anyway. So I
Right.
just feel like we just need to have different conversations with our
I
kids in
agree.
general, but also all of this aside. So all of this aside, the best thing you can tell kids too is to live life to make them happy. You
Right.
know, don't fall into any career because of what society is telling you.
Right.
Don't work in banking or payroll because someone else is telling you it'll make you cool to work in
Right.
that office. You know,
Right.
do what makes you happy. Okay, yes, you do have to take care of yourself. You know, I'm not saying that,
Mm-hmm.
but just put it into people. Do what makes you happy.
Right.
Okay,
I
and
agree.
that's
Yep.
all that matters to me. Okay, there's some
Mm-hmm.
people who they may not be making six figures, but they have something that makes them happy and that they live and they survive off of. I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are who make six figures who are actually in extreme debt. But I knew some people that were not making six figures, but guess what? They had money on the side and they had good credit. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
they were more financially literate than some people who were making way more money. But that person that was not making six figures actually essentially had more money
Right.
because they
You're
weren't living
absolutely
above
right.
their means. They weren't in debt. They had a good credit score. They owned a home. So they were in a different situation. They didn't have, a crazy car note. So like I said, it's
Yep.
all relative. It's a matter of what you want to define as successful, but be happy is the main thing though. So
Yes.
there's so
I
many,
agree.
I can go on and on about that one,
I
but
agree.
sometimes we're impressed by things that are just an image, you know. Like I
Yes.
mean, I had this image that I had this great corporate job, and everyone was like thinking that was cool, and I'm like, I hate this job. Like I'm miserable. I got to
I
travel
agree.
with my job sometimes, and we got to do gushy stuff. I still didn't like it.
I
I
agree.
mean, I just still didn't like it.
For me, it got to the point where I was like, this is so fake. Like, thank you for inviting me, but no. Like, I don't even talk to y'all in the office. Like, why am I going to sit and have drinks with you and just pretend I like you because it's Christmas? No.
Right, right.
So,
That's what I didn't like either. Like I said,
hmm
everybody's different. I just wasn't a person that was into the office Christmas this or the group outing to do this. And it's like, just pay me so I can do what I want. That's all I cared about. And
I
like I
hear you.
said, I worked in a situation where I was the only Black person in my department. They weren't trying to get to know my culture, but I could like talk to them about theirs. There's a lot
hmm
of different ways you could take that, and I was so
Yeah.
happy that I was out of that industry before the whole Black Lives Matter movement started, because I know I probably would have been either dragged out of there or fired or
hmm
something, because I know something would have popped off. Like I live, in Louisiana, is a girl is racist.
hmm
Like I know it wouldn't have been cool working with them during that anyway. So for me, the timing was perfect, because I'm like, I know it would have popped off working with these people, because they was already saying ignorant stuff that was offensive, So like you said,
Yeah.
who wants to go to dinner with people that you don't really relate to? And I'm the type of person where it's like my coworker is my coworker. They're
Right.
not my friend, but I'm not, like I said, that may be a reach for some people, not trying to sound bitter or whatever. But for
hmm
me, a coworker is a coworker, and I don't want to spend more time with them than I'm, allotted to. But I know where I worked that I felt like they would do all this extra stuff to get you so comfortable so that you're there all the time. Like I knew people
Right.
like managers that were at work all the time. Like it's like, when do you see your family? Like, do you
Yes.
have a
I
life
see that.
outside of this
Yeah.
building? So sometimes you got to be careful too with those jobs that always try to give you all these little
Yep.
perks, but they don't pay you enough to be around your own family, on a
hmm
vacation with your family or take a day off with your family. it's a way you, it's like
Yeah.
I say, you got to look at certain things that they do to make you accept the abuse. It's like like I said, it's like a bad boyfriend, you know, him
I
who may shower you with gifts.
I always compare jobs to relationships. Like I'm a consultant and I never really wanted to be permanent at any of these jobs. It's like, okay, give me the job. I'm gonna go in, do what I have to do, and that's all I want from it. And the one time I did accept a role, I was like, okay, I'm about to get married to this job now, and I have to deal with all the BS that come along with it. And when I signed the papers, I was like, oh God, like I don't know if I could do this. And in the beginning it was fine, and then here comes like the issues, and I was like, okay, I'm going through the turmoil in my marriage now, but I think it's going to lead to a divorce. And eventually
Mm-hmm.
it did. And then you tuggling for your compensation. Well, I worked this amount of time while I was here, I'm owed this, and they try and stick you for your money, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay. So I said, I'm staying a consultant. I can't do it no more. And one of the other things you mentioned when you were speaking was how you'll have someone making six figures and they're still broke, and you'll have someone who's making less and they're able to save and everything. And I witnessed that. I went through that, and then I was like, okay, I have to get myself out of this, and I have to help myself get back on my feet. And when I would talk to managers who are head of department or senior vice presidents, and I would talk to them about mental health, the ones that didn't have a problem talking to me, and I would ask them, like, why are you still in this if you're unhappy? Because they would tell me that they're unhappy, and they're like, well, I live a certain lifestyle, I'm providing for my kids, I don't really get to see my family anymore. And it's like, at the rate that I'm going, I might as well just toughen up and just do what I have to do. And it's like, yeah, this is why I'm backing away, because I don't want to be like that. And what you said, that like hit home for me. Um, my last question, because I don't want to hold you up. What are you most proud of in your journey that you have accomplished so far?
I'm proud of the fact that I was able to build my own career. I was proud of the fact that all the little things that these people did to just break me in, that it didn't work. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
proud of what I built over the past 2 years, and I know that it's growing, and I'm proud of the fact that I was able to utilize what they wasted. I was
Yeah,
able to utilize the energy that I was told that I had in a great way, that I talked to people and created my own thing for talking to people and having my energy. I much prefer, you know, the actors and the singers and people like that I've talked to compliment my energy than, my
mm-hmm.
white supervisor who was ignorant girl and truly didn't like me. I'm sorry if I had to choose, so like, I'm just happy that I was able to create my own, and that does make me proud. I'm proud when I look over the things that I've done in the past 2 years, and it's only been 2 years. So I'm like, I see big things for my future, but I'm proud of the fact that I just was like, screw it, I'm out, deuces,
Yeah,
and I didn't let it break me. Like, I just kept pushing. I'm just proud of my perseverance, and I'm just proud of the fact that I was able to build my own, because like I said,
yeah,
I couldn't take being stressed out for somebody else's dream. So I'm just proud of the fact that I'm living my own dream, because a lot of people are not. They're stuck
right.
and they're unhappy, or they don't even have the blessing that I had to at least have some talents to fall on. So
Mm-hmm.
that makes me the most proud. If I had to just, say immediately what makes me proud, I'm proud that I was able to just lead and
Yeah.
create something that makes me happy. I much prefer when I'm up working on my business and doing things from my clients and meeting new people. It's
Mm-hmm.
just what I felt like I was really meant to do. So
Right.
that's one thing that makes me proud too, because I feel like I'm doing what I was supposed to do.
Yeah. That's the best thing. Like knowing or feeling like you're walking in your purpose. Like, that's what I love. Like, when I started a sassy, classy, sophisticated woman, and I was meeting all these different women who had like some really cool things going on, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, like showcasing people. And then, with my book, with the Corporate Rebel and with the podcast, I was like, and now I also want to do something where I'm helping people in corporate America, like get that voice or get the strength to do something that you actually want to do instead of sitting stagnant in one spot and letting yourself just waste away. You deserve more than that. So just talking to you also, like, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh no, like I said, I'm so happy with the people that I've met. You've been one of them. We have, like I said, we have way more in common than what we discussed in this episode. Like, it's scary. So, and that's another blessing, actually. So many people that I met, I would have never met them in that corporate situation. Never. Yeah. So that's a blessing alone. Like, just with the business that I created, I've met so many different people in all walks of life. And that's just a blessing too.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, Shronda, thank you so much for joining me on the Corporate Rebel podcast. Thank you for helping me put this whole thing together. I greatly appreciate it. And we are going to have another episode together. Definitely.
Of course, definitely. And I have to get you on the Q chat.
Oh, thank you. I would love to. Like, I watched your episodes and I'm like, look at this girl. Look.
And thank you for having me on. I feel blessed that I could be like your first guest. Like, this has been really fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm going to let you go. And again, thank you so much. And I look forward to doing another episode with you. And I wish you the best with everything.
Thank you too. And much success with the Corporate Rebel podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. See you.